Yeah, I struggled in New York, but I don't know. I mean, I think when I started writing melodic music and I started singing, that's when we noticed that girls would show up to our show, and then with
The first sign
girls,
of success.
their boyfriends would come, and then all of a sudden, then you have a crowd, and then we're like, wow, this is how you make a living by actually getting people in, so that you can get paid to do a gig, instead of like playing for tips.
Hello, welcome to another episode of 2020. My name is Cory Peza, here as always with Siobhán Cronin and Benny Goodman. And today we get to speak with... Really? You're starting already? Don't you have enough in this episode? Enough insanity?
I like violence.
We're talking to Kishi Bashi, who's a singer, multi-instrumentalist, and a songwriter, a friend of Siobhán's that she kind of brought in, and he's a fascinating guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, he's an inspiration to me, as I say on the show, and he talks a lot about getting into the style of music that he's developed for himself, crafting solo shows, going from being a young, budding classical musician, going into jazz, breaking out into rock, and then eventually developing his own solo project.
If you go on like a Tinder date with some hipster and you want to sound like you really know what you're talking about, be like, I love Kishi Bashi, and they'll be like, who the fuck's that? And they're going to look him up, and they're going to be like, whether they love it or hate it, they're going to be like, this is really cool. So like, try that on a Tinder date. I'm telling you, Kishi Bashi is the way in. You're welcome.
Well, without letting Ben ruin this episode more than he already does in the episode, let's jump right in, part one, with
Accurate.
Kishi Bashi right now. Like and subscribe at 2020-d.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of 2020. I'm Siobhán Cronin, here as always with my friends and cohorts, Cory Peza and Benny Goodman. And this week, I'm super excited to invite one of my dear friends that I met playing music, the incredible Kishi Bashi, who plays basically every instrument. I don't even know if I can call you violinist, singer, producer. You do everything, and you're so inspiring to me. I was so happy that you were willing to come on our crazy show. And welcome. I can't wait to dive into telling your story to all of our listeners, wherever they may be.
Wow. Thank you. No, so it's so great to be here. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So maybe we can start off. You just wrapped up a little bit of a tour, right? Can you tell us maybe about what was that and what you were doing?
Yeah. So it's been 10 years since my debut album. So, I mean, since the beginning of Kishi Bashi, my solo project. And so it's, we just kind of played the album straight down from top to bottom, and it was 2 US tours, 3 weeks each. And so just wrapped that out, 2 legs of it. And I was exhausted a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know. I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah, no, I feel you. We've been going for almost 3 months now. I mean, totally different style of music, but I'm of in the twilight zone right now in terms of traveling. It's 3 weeks is kind of the ideal amount of time, I think, to be traveling. Then after that, you kind of lose your mind.
Yeah, you've been on 3 months straight, or have you any time to go back?
Not really. I mean, so we did a support tour. So for those listening, I'm out with Starset right now, but we did a support tour where we were opening for an arena band. Mm-hmm. We did that for like 4 weeks, and then we had basically 2 days to sort of flip our production. We were just sitting in Nashville, so it wasn't really like any rest time. We didn't go home or anything, just had to go get more of our gear, and then we immediately went out on a big headline run. It was like more or less 5 shows a week for the remainder of the 2 months.
Oh my God.
So
yeah. I used to tour hard. But I used to do like 5-week US tours, but I can't do anything more than that. I just start like, it's not fun anymore for me.
Yeah.
Like
I'm starting to feel like that. Like maybe a few years ago it was okay, but now I'm just kind of like, all right, this is too much.
Your show, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure that people that maybe haven't heard you yet, because I had a chance to check you out today after Siobhán kind of like gave us a little heads up about you, and I was curious because she mentioned that you're a multi-instrumentalist and you do all these things, and I went to your website and went through your a bunch of your videos, and first off, they're crazy. Like you have like the super creative mind when it comes to like presenting your music and also your music. It looks like you do a lot of like live looping kind of stuff, or at least in some of the videos it looked like some of that. What does a tour look like for you when you're doing your solo music?
Yeah, I mean, I usually have in the beginning I was just by myself, and that's when I'd rely a lot on looping, beatboxing, making beatbox loops and playing violin, and then accompanying my voice with the violin. And then I started adding more people. So, but recently it's usually a 4 or 5 piece band, full tour. I have a, tour manager, a sound person, lighting. I have a couple confetti cannons, that I blow off.
Real deal.
Production value.
I love these confetti. I keep buying confetti cannons. I just bought some lights, so I own some lights now. And just kind of like.
Did you go down to like Ultra in Miami? You saw like Steve Aoki blowing that shit over everyone. You're like, fuck. I gotta mix this with my violin. It's gonna be revolutionary.
I need some cake. I need to throw some cake, or whatever.
Oh yeah, dude.
How much do the venues love you as they clean up all the confetti?
They love me after I pay them between $250 and $500 to clean up. It's not like Flaming Lips. It's not like it's not gross like cake, So or like champagne and feathers, or like some bands do that,
Oh my gosh, that sounds like a nightmare to clean up.
Yeah, they hate those bands, or like Gore or something. But it's just like light confetti. You can just sweep it up, But it adds so much delight to the
one
show.
of my first jobs was working at Tweeter Center, which is now Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts. And I always hated when Aerosmith played, because they have confetti cannons that are of the industrial size. And they fill a 20,000 seat arena with confetti that then they send all the 13-year-olds to clean up for the next week. So, but it makes for a good show. That's what really matters, right?
And good memories, to talk to your therapist about with, right?
Yeah, right. Well, let's jump back really quick, because I want to fill in some of the listeners. So I met you playing with New Decco Ensemble, and that was actually my first time discovering your music. And it was so inspirational to me, because as a violinist growing up in the classical world and, recently getting into the rock world, I was always inspired by people that kind of broke out of that genre and did their own thing, and especially having something that's like your own show that's kind of violin centric, that incorporates all these different styles and elements. And I'm wondering if you can tell us, for the listeners, how you got started or got inspired to sort of break out into your own genre, how you studied like learning violin. Just kind of walk us through your upbringing when it comes to music.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, playing with New Decco was, it's a huge, like, I love those guys, you guys, it's like it's such a great project. And that's kind of the culmination of like really trying to get my violin to do different things and to play with different people. But initially, I was classically trained through high school. I was kind of serious about string quartets. So I did like played Debussy and Shostakovich. I had a little group in high school. And then I started getting into jazz improvisation. Ultimately, I went to college and I ended up at Berklee College of Music, where I studied jazz violin, like really improvisation on violin really heavily for like a few years. And so that was my main thing. And then it wasn't until, I was playing with jam bands, and it wasn't until I moved to New York and I was doing like basically like an electric violin thing, but I never really played solid body electric. It was always like a violin with a pickup on it,
Okay.
So that's kind of, and that's what I did. And so I never get, I know you put like distortion, I can't put distortion on my acoustic violin.
It's definitely harder. Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I gotta tell you, when I put like holes in my Amati, the guy who was doing it was kind of upset with me. He was like, dude, you shouldn't do this. But the thing is, for me, it's all about the sound, and I'm playing it. So like, why wouldn't I put holes in my Amati violin?
Your Amati violin.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Ben does not own an Amati violin.
Did you just look up expensive violins? Like,
I actually
would do, to be
hold
honest.
on. Siobhán knows this. I happen to pride myself on just having an expansive knowledge for useless things, and I happen to like instruments, so I will go to museums and even take pictures of Amatis versus Stradivariuses and I collect guitars and all of that, so all that stuff I have a freakish knowledge for it. So I can't play it, but I've seen many a Stradivarius and many an Amati, and I know a lot of those stories, but I don't know why they're good or anything about it other than they're $43 million.
Or more, starting at.
Yeah, starting out, exactly. Well, let me ask you, so in terms of your musical influences, what made you gravitate towards jazz or other styles besides classical? Because if you were super into classical and then went sort of 180 to jazz improvisation, everything's related, of course, but totally different. What influenced you to go in that direction at first?
I think, I got into, somebody bought me a CD of Stefan Grappelli when I was in high school. He's a great jazz violinist from the 40s. He played with Django Reinhardt, kind of established that genre. They call it gypsy jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Gypsy jazz.
Gypsy jazz, yeah.
I love Django with the two fingers. Yeah, he inspired
the two fingers.
Les Paul.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably one of the probably the first early great soloists on guitar.
I'm doing a documentary right now on Les Paul, and we have a whole thing on Django.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So I love Very cool.
Yeah, he's incredible. So yeah, so his group had, the Hot Club of Paris or of France, whatever. He had a Stefan Grappelli, who was this great violinist, and so I started transcribing his solos, and then I used to listen to a lot of Kronos Quartet, and they had some jazz, like a Bill
it's mind-numbing.
They had a Bill Evans album, which was really cool. What I thought was improvising was just a transcribed Bill Evans solo on for Kronos Quartet, and then I didn't realize that till later. But and then I love the sound of just acoustic violin improvising, and so I really got into it. I like Jean-Luc Ponty, Mahavishnu Orchestra is like my hero, one of my heroes.
That's awesome.
Was that Jerry Goodman or something? Was it?
He's the first guy, and then I think that he fired his entire John McLaughlin fired his entire first band after they wanted like more money or something, and then he just hired like a more polished version of everybody.
I remember being a dorky young kid, and I went to go see the Dixie Dregs and Dream Theater, and I was backstage because I was doing keyboard stuff for Jordan Rudess, trying to kiss some ass to see John Petrucci and stuff. And they're saying Goodman, and I'm like, they're calling. Well, I'm Benny Goodman, so I'm like, well, what do you want, Portnoy? And he's calling Jerry Goodman, and I saw him walking around with a violin, and I'm like, there's a dude back here who plays violin. And then I saw Jerry Goodman play, and I was like, holy fuck. And I still have a drum head signed in that room from Jerry Goodman, but that was the first time I was like, wait a minute. Violinists can fucking hang out with like Steve Morse and John Petrucci.
Right? Yeah. Dixie Dregs.
And
Steve Morse.
Rod Morgenstein. Yeah, fucking unbelievable.
Why don't we talk about why your name is Benny Goodman?
Yeah, why is that?
Well,
I'd
love to say it's because my parents like to sing because they like swing music, but they weren't that cultured. In fact, my dad is Hebrew, and in Hebrew, Benjamin means son of my right side, and I'm a twin. So this is the side when my mom had a cesarean section that they destroyed. The son of the right side. Now, unfortunately for my brother, the only name was Poindexter, which meant son of my left side. So they named him Brian. But I, Benjamin, means son of my right side. And my dad, because he's a good man, it's a Jewish thing. He goes back to the 13th century. Someone liked that guy. He's a good man. So Ben. And then my grandfather, who was Greek, had nothing to do with the Jews, probably didn't really like us that much, to be honest with you, but accepted us because I was related to him. He used to be like, Benny, get out. No one called me Benny. So finally, when I was like 7, someone's like, Benny Goodman? Your name's Benny? And I'm like, what do you mean my name is Benny? Like that was like, my name was like Barack Obama or something.
Almost.
Yeah. So ever since then, it's one of those things where I've just kind of lived up to the moniker.
I like it. Benny Goodman. Yeah, you got a lot to live up to.
You'll remember me now. And
for all the episodes we've done, I can't believe you haven't told this story before, because you love to repeat stories multiple times. And for doing over 100 episodes, you've not once told this story. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. And just so you know, if you ever want to find me, I am the Benny Goodman on all platforms. And I will say this too: we're doing a documentary on Les Paul. And the first time I went to go see Joe Perry and Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp, I got on their guest list, and I felt all verklempt because Joe Perry went up to my buddy, our friend, the friend of the show, Paul Geary, and he said, "Did Benny Goodman, the King of Swing, come back from the dead to come see us?" And my buddy literally had to say something to the extent of like, "No, it's just my friend Benny." But Joe asked about me. You know what I mean? Like, he knows that I exist now, so I feel good.
Well, I mean, what does the estate of Benny Goodman think about you as Benny Goodman?
He has an estate. He was a clarinet player. How long ago did that estate run out? Like 1958?
Isn't he the king of swing?
Yeah, but how big is a swing? I mean, like, what kind of niche amongst the niches? You hear the kids swinging now? They're all doing the EDM and shit. If it was DJ Goodman,
they're in like parks.
That would be a thing.
Yeah.
If he was Avicii, we'd never forget him.
Yep. I assumed you just went by that, so you would never be the first result on Google searches.
Right, exactly, knowing you.
Well, that's now my goal, Cory. That is now my goal.
There can be only one.
There can be only one.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's come back to the topic again, which is not the Benny Goodman, who is a host that you can listen to plenty of other times on other episodes. Let's go back. So we were talking about jazz and some of your influences. At what point did you branch off and think about creating your own project? Because that's a hard thing to do. And at what point did you start singing or writing lyrics? All these other things that come into like doing your own show.
Well, I mean, I'd always played in bands, but I think the funny thing, it's connected to jazz is that, when I moved to New York, I had a jazz group called Jupiter One. And so I started noticing that once I started singing songs, like more and more people would come to our shows. Cause like jazz shows are just like, they're dismal and they're kind of empty and like it's only your friends and maybe their other friends, come to pay to see you.
Which is sad because it's such a like complicated, refined art form.
Yeah.
You hope that more people appreciate.
You spend so much time practicing on how to like
I was
solo
wondering
and,
actually, so Cory said he was doing research and I was as well. And first off, you're next level, dude. Like, I mean, honestly, my brain hurts. I actually, some of the stuff I didn't like because I don't feel like my brain's smart enough to understand why it's good. Like, but I wanted to understand this. There's a song called I'm Your Antichrist. And I wonder, is that an allegory for, playing instrumental impromptu violin? Is that like what that's about? Because it was a very strange dichotomy. I felt like listening to that song was like when the guy cuts off
the song title, Ben, so you should do a better job of remembering.
No, I'm terrible with this stuff but I will say this. I was moved. I literally was like, this is so different. This is so cool. Your voice is well, first off, my favorite is I probably got it wrong too. Violin Tsunami, whatever the fuck that is, it melted my mind and the crescendos from the violin to like whatever other Foley sound and things you have going on to actually having a beat. Like, I gotta tell you, I was listening to it and it gave me goosebumps. And it was one of those things where I actually had to say to myself, like, I don't think I understand this, but I think I need to respect it immediately because I'm gonna make a fool of myself if I don't.
Okay, thanks.
What was the question?
What's the question?
Yeah,
what was the question?
There was no question.
Welcome to our world.
To our show.
The question was about the song I got wrong. I'm your Antichrist.
Yeah. I am the Antichrist to you.
I am the Antichrist to you. Correct. Yeah. You said it way more eloquently than I did.
Incorrectly.
What's that about? Like, I mean, that's such a cool title. And of course, it's in a Rick and Morty, which I love. So, like, it has to have some sort of strange meaning, or does it not?
I mean, I'd rather not say what it really means, but it's probably not about my hatred for the jazz not genre, but the
job. That is a possible meaning.
I was wrong.
The job that is playing straight ahead jazz for a living. It's something that I struggled in New York, but I don't know. I mean, I think when I started writing melodic music and I started singing, that's when we noticed that girls would show up to our show, and then with girls, their boyfriends would come, and then all of a sudden, then you have a crowd, and then we're like, wow, this is how you make a living by actually getting people in, so that you can get paid to do a gig, instead of like playing for tips and getting like a free drink.
Well, it goes from like easy listening, like on the phone as you're waiting, even though you're like, wow, this is really good. That arpeggio is nice. To like, I got to tell you, when I'm listening to Violin Tsunami, like your voice, I don't want to compare you to like Anya or something like that, but it's like that got that relaxing, like it overcame me with like I should be saying a mantra.
Are you talking about Enya?
Whatever. I don't get anything right. Don't you know? The names of everything's wrong. Yeah. But it's Enya. It's like, but that relaxing, overwhelming, like
Enya, Anya, Aerosmith.
I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Sure. Yeah. Well, I am wearing. That's true.
I know you're wearing Aerosmith.
I'm wearing it.
So, but just to kind of go back to that shift, you're obviously, we try to steer it away from this train wreck over here as often as possible. But that for some people, shifting from the style of jazz like that to something that I guess would be considered a little more mainstream and melodic, like, is there a stigma that you had to overcome for yourself or for others that were around you to do that, or was it more like, oh wait, this is actually working and I enjoy it more when people actually show up to see me?
Well, I mean, the one thing about violin is that it can be very beautiful and like serene and like emotionally enriching or enrapturing. So like I used to be in a rock band so Jupiter One turned into a rock band where I was playing guitar and keyboard, and singing. and like doing scissor kicks or whatever we do in rock bands.
Yes.
You know, and then, but then I didn't really play violin that much in that band. I did a little bit as a novelty. You know, it wasn't violin forward. It was just like rock, because that's what dudes do. They play rock on like guitars and maybe keyboards if you're lucky, you know. But and so I think after really struggling with that band, I started doing solo. Let's see, when is I started? Well, a couple things happened. One was like I started having I had a kid, you know, and so she, you know, we had a little baby, and basically I had to be quiet like in our apartment, so I had to like write really soft songs like a lot of times, like when they're asleep, you know. And I think a lot of that really helped me to just not be like, I can make non-aggressive music and be like make chill music or beautiful, like quiet music, and feature my voice more. I think I kind of learned that also because I used to play for, I toured with Regina Spektor for a whole year, you know, and she has this really beautiful voice, and it's a way to like capture the audience by just her voice being really loud and her piano, you know. And so I kind of got inspired to be like, and she let me open up, you know, for a whole tour and stuff like that. But I think just basically it's like, it took me a lot of to come down from, you know, Mount Testosterone, you know, and to just our toxic masculinity in music, you know, which is just like, to be able to embrace, like, I want to make beautiful music. And I think the violin really kind of has that sound, you know, like this beauty that I really attracted. And once I started doing that, it was like, it opened a lot of doors, because it's a little tricky to do, you know, to make music with the violin, like a violin forward music sound.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say that was something I very much enjoyed about your music, was that, like, you know, a lot of it has just solo violin and these layers, a lot of layers, but it's songwriter. Like it sounds like you could play it with just a guitar or just a piano and sing it. And that was a really cool thing to me, because it's not just like, oh, look, I'm a violinist and I'm singing over it. These are songs that could live autonomously of whether you play them on the piano or the violin. And it's really good. And your voice is haunting. It's really cool, man, to put it all together, because like your sense of harmony is incredulous. Like, I mean, there's some stuff that you do and it's so subtle, but like it's like Freddie Mercury level, like how many harmonies can I actually do before you get like overtones that are going to offend people? Like, and you do it. And I really enjoy it. And it's like your production too, when I was listening with headphones on, it's like some Pink Floyd shit. So it's like that psychedelic crap going on. I don't know what it is, like some binaural shit.
I mean, I like, actually, Pink Floyd is a big model for my early sound, like acoustic guitars, you know, like a lot of synthesizers. I like analog synths. So, you know.
Well, you're on to something.
I've heard. They're still here for a reason, you know. So, I don't know. I think, thanks. I think I actually love analog synths. I just got a Korg Prologue. Do you guys know that keyboard?
Oh yeah.
I don't know it specifically, but I'm sure it's amazing. I love
awesome.
Like playing around with synths.
I have an NS2000B back here, which is an analog synth. Yeah, and they're so hard to find, but I found one with the gooseneck mic, and it's like my go-to.
Korg, which one? The one on top?
It's no.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the best vocoder, because it's like the Daft Punk sounding one where you don't have to really know how to use it very well for it to sound good.
I know that one. Yeah, that's from like the early 2000s, right? Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, it's like 2000, 2001. Yeah. It's like my favorite one. They make it like a micro Korg now. Yeah. But this is like the full blown. Yeah.
Yeah, I used the original analog MS-10. Do you know that one? It's like a.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that thing's sick.
I love it. It's got these little like cool like flute recorder sounds that are just you can't match it with any other synthesizer. I also have a Mini Moog like original, which sounds really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's sick.
So many fun toys.
I love synthesizers.
So can we maybe along that track, can we talk about production? Like when you're writing and recording, what does that look like for you? Are you doing a lot of are you doing all your own production? Are you doing demoing? Are you what's that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, my first 2-3 albums, I pretty much made fully formed demos with like, drum tracks and everything, like synth. I use Contact a lot, I use, that, and I have a lot of sample synths, and some of them are like loop violin based. Some of them are like I write on guitar. Some of them are acoustic guitar usually, and a lot of synthesizers. I also have a Juno 106, which I like a lot. But yeah, what I do is I ended up like I make the beat. I use Ableton and Logic, Pro Tools if I have to, but actually Ableton a lot. I like that a lot. It's really highly creative. I'll create stuff and then I'll chop it up and then like resample and like use it like a sampler. And then I end up like layering a lot of stuff, and then like as much as I can with different instruments, and then like removing things to see if interesting things happen. So I ended up like even if I wrote it on a guitar or a keyboard, the song might actually end up being something featuring something that's like not originally intentionally something I wrote with the song.
So so you hyper layer it, and then sometimes you take out the original tracks that are like the bottom layer of Jenga.
Yeah,
just see if it floats on its own.
Yeah, see if it floats or if it's actually interesting. Because sometimes something happens where it's just like
that's
interesting.
super cool, man.
Yeah, I do that. But then recently, my last album, Omoyari, was like I recorded with a full band, and that was awesome. Just kind of like 1 week in the studio. I had all the songs, everything arranged, or everything kind of fleshed out form wise, but and one song a day in the studio with a really good band. It's like something.
That's awesome.
It's great.
Let me ask you, when it comes to songwriting, is it something that you explored a lot while you were in school at Berkeley, for example, or did that come from playing with the rock band? Have you always kind of been a songwriter? Because that's something that's interesting to me among the various guests we have. Is songwriting for me, I find is difficult, but I'm curious to see how you got into it.
I definitely listen to a lot of I like Bob Dylan and the Beatles and Paul McCartney and Leonard Cohen. What else do I like? I like Pink Floyd. I don't know. I just like a lot. You
definitely hear Beatles stuff in your harmonies, man. Like I'm like this dude definitely listened to the Beatles. Yeah. I made a mental note of that. And I love that.
I also like ELO. I love Electric Light Orchestra. I'm a huge fan. So that's like kind of orchestral. So ELO and Pink Floyd, those are the kind of sounds that I modeled a lot of my first album off of. Just like orchestral, lots of harmonies, lots of string lines, acoustic guitars. I used to do a lot of Nashville tuning, where it's just the jangly part, just like kind of keep so you don't have to worry about the beef of the
I just notch all that bullshit out. That's what I've learned the most from Cory. Is that if you want to fit as much shit in, you just got to realize that you got to just cut all those frequencies out.
For the listeners and viewers, Nashville tuning is if you take a 12 string and remove all the low strings. So it's a very kind of bright, kind of glistening sound for a guitar.
You can do a 6 string too, I think. Yeah.
Well, that's the strings you use are the high of a 12 string, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I like the converse of that. There's something called Gambale tuning after Frank Gambale. And what he does is he tunes it to an A. It's A standard. So basically, it's like if you put it on the 5th fret, but the top 2 strings are an octave low.
Are you talking about A tuning? It's like
no. It's A standard.
No.
I do know about that.
But tell us, because I don't know about it.
I just learned about it like yesterday. And my buddy Ben Levin told me it's basically you tune every single down to an A. And then you can just do a massive, crazy solo, like a single. It's sick. He showed me, man. It's like
that definitely seems like a guitar player invention.
I did have. This is the Nashville one.
Oh, I'll get the Gambale.
The Gambale.
Oh my God, here we go.
Nerds, guitar nerd hour.
That's basically what this show is. I occasionally get some violin stuff in here, but it's usually guitar nerding out.
Bass. We don't talk about bass on this show. We don't talk about bass. Yeah, well, you just said basically. This is Gambale tuning.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
So it's just got lower octaves, in other words?
So it starts on A, and so I can play. So the top 2 strings are an octave low.
Yeah, it's a really pretty tuning.
Oh yeah.
It's very much like it's supposed to be like piano keys close together, so it's a lot of piano voicing. So that's a bar chord.
Okay.
Do you experiment with different tunings when you're playing around on like stringed instruments like that?
On string,
or in general, like do you ever flip things around when you're writing just to get different sounds?
Oh yeah. Like on guitar, I like who's that guy? Like Nick Drake. Like drop open C. I've been messing around with that a little bit. I've also been really getting into electric guitar, honestly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like.
What
practicing.
prompted that? Just like for more writing inspiration, or?
I just got this. I've gotten like a couple cool guitars, so they're actually fun to play. And
That's so important, man.
Yeah.
Like people all the time talk about how expensive a guitar, how nice it is. I say, how many songs does it have in it? Because some guitars will call you and you're just like, I got to play this thing over and over. And it may be like a beautiful Les Paul, or it might just be a crappy Fender sitting in the corner. But that's how I judge a guitar. How many songs does it pull out of me?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how I treat an instrument. Honestly, if I buy an instrument, if it has one song in it, it's worth it to me,
Yeah, absolutely.
But so
for $42 million, that Amati better fucking have that song in it.
Oh yeah, that better have multiple songs in it.
Like a Tchaikovsky in there, a Paganini in there. But yeah, my friend. So I took a lesson from my friend Ben Levin. You should look him up. He's a crazy guitar player. But he's like, "Where's your whammy pedal?" I was like, "I don't know. Where's your whammy bar?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't." And so he's like, "You should. A guitar without a whammy bar is kind of like stupid." That's what he told me yesterday. So I'm kind of
don't insult my Les Paul back there.
Here's what you do. This is what, if you want to fucking heckle this fucker, go back and put a Bigsby on it, which is the dumbest fucking whammy ever. It barely does anything. Be like, yeah, see, I got one, and he'll just be like shaking his head.
I got the Strat. It's called a Warren. Let's see, a Warren. It's road worn. It's new. It's brand new, but it's road worn. So it has
I like that color.
Some kid in Mexico like beat this up and like made it look like it's been on tour or something. You know?
Oh, like it's been on the road.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That makes it sound. That makes it sound better though. That's important. It's like ripped jeans, you know.
Yeah, I mean the fingerboard's like the grease. It's greasy. So it feels really good. I have fun playing it. So anyway, I got into it, and my friend made me another guitar. So I'm like really like a telly. So I'm just I don't know. I'm just been into guitars. Bought a bunch of pedals, you know. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm sorry to keep going back because I'm fascinated just by the album writing process and developing your sound and your style. But when you were doing your first album, was it something that just kind of came together? Because you mentioned you had a kid and you were writing different types of music, and did all of this sort of come together? Did you sit down with a strategy of what kind of sound you wanted to develop, and you sat down to like write an album and put yourself on some sort of project timeline? I'm just curious about how that came together.
Yeah, I think it was kind of out of desperation because Jupiter One, my rock band that I put everything into, was just it just really wasn't taking off,
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing these solo songs, and that really started taking off. And I put an EP together, and then I started doing the solo loop thing,
mm-hmm.
And so it was basically, I had a motto in the beginning. It was, don't lose money on tour,
mm-hmm.
And so like I could only hire myself, and I would open up for $200 for somebody, or whatever, I do it so that I wouldn't lose money. And so I made my debut album I moved out of New York City to work on this debut album. I went home, I lived with my parents. I took my whole family, to live with my parents for like a few months. And then to take the financial pressures off of just
mm-hmm.
like trying to hustle in New York City, which was awful. I felt like a peasant, and so, yeah, it just kind of started with that. I was really desperate, and I put together all these songs that I've been working on and worked hard on them for like 6 months. And then I just had it mixed. I went to this guy in Athens, Georgia, to have it mixed, and then got it mastered, and that's it.
Wow! So then you released label, the album.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go on.
Oh yeah. I did a Kickstarter project. It's still like online, but like I made a video and I raised some money to kind of help me get started. And then a record label, Joyful Noise Recordings, which is like it's actually a pretty good sized label now, but it was like one person back then, and so he signed me and we kind of grew together.
That's amazing. So that's an incredible story. I didn't know that. So did you notice that it was getting some traction once it got released, and at what point did it turn into touring on it or doing live performances? And what was that process like?
Yeah, I was doing both simultaneously. So like, let's see what was going on. I was playing with Regina Spektor, and then I quit that, and then I joined a band called Of Montreal. They're from Athens, and so I was in that band for like a year. And they're this crazy like psychedelic rock band, party band. And so I opened up while I was working on my album. I opened up for them, and I was opening up and basically barely ever going home to see my family or anything, because I was just basically doing my own early Kishi Bashi stuff, doing Of Montreal tours, and then they got to a point where I was actually making money headlining as my, small clubs on my own, that I was like, oh, actually, I can't do both. And so I started doing solo, and then I grew, like I hired one person that was Tall Tall Trees, like Mike Savino. And then I eventually, over the course of, 5 years, I kind of grew into, so I could afford like a crew, in a band, just like build the US markets, at least,
That's amazing. When it came to arranging it, like once you added more musicians, did any of the arrangements change or develop because you had different people, or was it all kind of prearranged based on the stuff that you wrote on your own?
No, I usually cater to the musicians that I have. So if I know they're good singers, I'll make sure they can sing, or if they're like, they can do if they can play other instruments and help out, they can do that. Or sometimes if it's just duo, like me and Mike, I can do, we'll arrange it differently. Because I think, the songs, so sometimes it's a real struggle to recreate the song with just a limited amount of people, but most of the time I can just get away with just presenting the song, especially if it's like a popular one that people want to hear.
Yeah.
With one, either by myself or with like two people.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's like a party show, and it has to end with like confetti, then I need like a drummer and a full band, but
it could be a little lame if you're just sitting up there with an acoustic guitar and then all of a sudden you're just like, show's over.
I mean, that would be hilarious. I could do that just because you challenged me to do that.
Well, please take a video and send it to us so we can put it on.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit just about your videos. I mentioned them earlier, but my first impression of you was just checking out your website, which is just kishibashi.com, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys go there, visit it. You have a ton of videos, ton of music up there, and there's a very eclectic kind of style for the videos. Like when you're thinking about how to present your music through the visual medium, like what does that process look like?
Usually there's a few filmmakers that I work with, so like if there's or a lot of time people just approach me, they're like, oh, are you doing a video? And I check out their stuff, and then I have to imagine. I work with the directors, pretty closely, so I have to like imagine if I think it's possible, or if it's going to be cool or not, whatever their concept is. I usually let them come up with an idea. I don't know what videos you saw.
So you work off of like, how you let them listen to the song and they come to you with a treatment.
Yeah. And I kind of work with them. Like, I don't know if that's going to work, or like, I don't think that's interesting enough, or, and usually I can tell I have to see their previous work, and I can be like, oh, I can imagine you making something like you say it is, Sometimes they're like, oh, we'll do this and it'll be awesome. And I'm like, I don't know how awesome, I don't have confidence in you're gonna be able to make a 3-minute amazing thing,
As a video director, I've been on the other side of that conversation, like, no, it's gonna be crazy, there's gonna be explosions and there's this thing, and then there's a person's like,
and then what's your budget? I don't really have one.
Like, all right, well, I can put a GoPro up in the corner of the room and you can sing,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of like video production, maybe we can jump and talk about the documentary that you did, because that was something with New Decco that I got to, play some of the string parts that you arranged to go with it. And that's a massive project, and not many musicians venture on that boat of producing a full-length film. Where did that come from? And maybe just for the people that don't know, like, what can you tell us what it's about? I mean, I know, but for the listeners, fill us in on how that came to be.
Yeah, so it actually started with New Decco. So New Decco Ensemble, the end of the group you play in, is they commissioned me to write a piece that involved visuals and improvisations in like remote Japanese American incarceration locations. And so as I was going to film these pieces and work on this orchestral piece for New Decco, I had a documentarian document me working on it. And so that became the documentary. And then it's all about like minority identity and like World War II history. And it basically is spiraled into like this feature length documentary, which we premiered this year, but we're actually pulling it out. It's a long story, but we're actually getting distribution now. So we have to pull it out, and we're reworking it again.
Oh, wow.
Congrats.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's awesome, man.
Awesome. Yeah. I can't tell you what it is, what it's going to be on, but it'll be out next year.
Wow. That's super exciting. Well, we'll have to stay tuned for that.
I think you're in it. Do you remember the cameras? You were at the concert, right? The premiere?
With the piece. Yeah. At the New World Center when they had. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun.
I hope you know. I hope you're okay. I hope you're okay.
That sounds like
I'm totally
that sounds
okay
like
with
some, that sounds like something that Siobhán would have. Like, oh yeah, you're just happen to be on like House of Cards, or you're on this TV show. You're in this movie. You didn't know that.
House Cards.
No,
Yeah, Queen's Gambit was what I was thinking of.
He's always making fun of me for that.
Well, no, because I remember her telling me like, it was in like someone's room. Like one time I went down to an apartment, and then she's like, it's going to be a show on like Netflix, I think. And I'm like, watch it be the biggest thing on the planet. And I told her, I'm like, it's number one on Netflix. And I remember her reaction was, what's number one?
What show are you talking about? I want to go see
the
this.
Queen's Gambit.
Oh, you're in the Queen's Gambit? Like what
just
scene?
Music.
See,
so it's throughout the whole thing. So the composer.
Through the whole thing, bro.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't write it.
The
I just
whole
played it.
show.
That's awesome.
Oh, you just played it for billions of people to listen to. No big deal. Who cares?
You're like my mom talking about my accomplishments more
Oh
than I
yeah,
do.
but the music for that is really good, and the licensed music is really cool too. I remember they have cool songs in it and everything. Yeah,
the composer's amazing. I mean, he had done stuff with Netflix before, but he's also somebody that is great with sound design. There's something very special about like the types of sounds he uses. It's a lot of it's pretty open, like piano and string centric, but the piano sounds and the way it works with the strings, it's like just filled enough, but still pretty sparse. What's
his name? What's that person's name?
Carlos Rafael Rivera.
Okay, cool.
So if you just look up Carlos Queen's Gambit, I'm sure it would come up on
But
Google,
basically, if you hear like a solo violin on that show, most likely through the whole season, which is, by the way, phenomenal and Emmy Award winning. It's incredible.
Nice.
It's her. And I can tell you this because I said to her that I bet you more people heard you this weekend because Netflix during COVID recommended this show about chess, which sounds about as interesting as watching experimental violin, right? Like that's like so many dudes, right? Like to sit there like that. But instead, it's the number one show on the fucking planet, and she's playing it, and through the back of my speakers, I'm like pointing to my fiance. I'm like, that's Siobhán. She's like, can't you just watch the show? I'm like, but no, but that's her violin. You're like, but yeah, but I'm trying to watch what's happening over here, and you're fucking yammering about a stupid violin. That's pretty true.
You really painted that picture of COVID time.
Oh yeah,
quarantining.
Yeah.
I saw what's the actress Anna Taylor-Joy, Northman. I saw The Northman the other night. It was really good.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen
so
that.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
The North. Have you seen The Lighthouse or Witch? The Witch.
I think I saw that Witch one, whatever.
Witch. Same director. It's really fucked up. Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Talking, mentioning COVID, that was kind of like our original like master topic. Obviously the show's called 2020, because we started in 2020 because of COVID. And one of the things we used to always ask is like, how did you spend your time? Like, especially as a musician, a touring person, or right? Like what was that period like for you?
Yeah, I mean, two things. Let's see, I was not touring.
I would hope not. It'd be a very lonely tour.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I had kind of a great time. I had this RV, that I never really used, so a camper, and I took it around the country. So I went to, I took my kid, drove up to Montana, and then later in the year drove all the way to the West Coast and back, and kind of camped out and kind of really saw America, like these places that that touring musicians don't see, like that don't have venues, like the mountains and like
right.
It was amazing. It's
so you
so
took
beautiful,
advantage of it.
Yeah, I was like, because I didn't have anything else to do. And then I wrote a lot of songs. I put out an EP, of like 6 songs. And then I realized Spotify does not like EPs. So it's like kind of got buried,
Interesting.
But,
why is, I don't know much about this, but why is that?
There's like this algorithm, if you look at Spotify and you open it up to whatever artist and you look at new releases, an EP doesn't like show up. If you look up like album list, an EP doesn't show up, in the album list, even if you want it to. And so it's kind of like it's like in the singles section.
But what if you're like it's Alice in Chains and it's like Sack, where there's like songs that you have to hear? Like, are they really gonna like push that down like the Memories at Camp?
Well, if you're Alice in Chains, and if you If you really want to hear Alice in Chains, you probably go there and dig deeply. But if
Diggs Mudvayne.
Yeah, they're not really worried about
that's-
bringing in the new fans. I don't think they're.
wait, is that guy alive? Didn't he die? The Alice in
Lane
Chains guy?
Staley
Lane
did,
Staley,
but,
yeah.
But
Yeah,
but
like,
but
from
see, this
COVID?
upsets me because Jerry Cantrell, like he's like half the 50% of the voice and like 98% of the songwriting. So like it still sounds like Alice in Chains because that William Duvall guy, even though he looks drastically different and has like an afro, but like it sounds like Alice in Chains.
This bothers you. You can't sleep at night because of this.
Well, I don't understand why everybody.
There's a lot of
thinks
reasons
that
he
the
can't sleep at night.
That's true. It's usually the Adderall and the cocaine mixed with the caffeine, but you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of like, you must pay attention to like the algorithms and like how
I
how
don't pay
music.
attention. My label does.
Yeah,
They're
well,
just like,
so that you're forced to kind of like one thing we talk about a lot with people is like the singles game versus the album. Have you put any thought into that side of things? Like do you experiment at all, or does your label ask you to experiment with things like that to see what catches?
Yeah, my label's always trying to make me put out new music, but I'm really unprolific. I put out an album every 2 years, and that's about it. At minimum, I just work on. I really don't like releasing stuff unless I feel like it's ready.
Why don't you just make an EP that's like just call it an album?
I think the algorithm's smarter than that. So
Okay.
I could just make an album. I don't know. I learned my lesson. I just know that I go out there and a lot of people don't know the EP. Like they don't even know it exists for some reason.
All right. I have an idea. Why don't you make the last song like 23 minutes and most of the end of it's just noise? So it clocks in at 78 minutes. How could
You have to break it up into multiple tracks though. Noise 1, noise 2, noise 3. So,
I was told that multiple tracks is really the way to go. So you could have like a punk rock.
But what if you're Tool
like
and
the
all your
Misfits
tracks
or
are 14 minutes and you have 6 songs, but it's
once again,
84
Tool's
minutes?
not trying to find new. They're not
Five
I'm just
examples, Ben, is not
confused.
helping.
What about these giant bands that don't need to break through?
What about Stone Temple Pilots, man?
I love Stone Temple Pilots.
I saw that was one of my first concerts I ever saw.
They're so good.
They were I want to say they're good, but actually let me think. Okay. It was actually they actually didn't sound good compared to the Flaming Lips opened up, but they were like an unknown like band. But I do remember them like smashing. This is like 1992. That's they were like smashing. They put like rubbing alcohol on the cymbal. They light it on fire.
Yeah,
that was like their thing. I remember that. And then Butthole Surfers closed. And then I remember they were supposed to open for Stone Temple Pilots, but Stone Temple Pilots wanted to go home, or they wanted to like leave earlier, so they switched the order. And it was in this, and the Butthole Surfers like, man, fuck SDP.
The 90s.
It was the 90s. Everybody just hated each other.
Oh my gosh.
And got away with lighting things on fire on stage, which
that
would be frowned upon in most Live Nation venues, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Great White ruined that for all of us.
Yeah, Great White. Damn.
Rip the station fire to all those people.
Yeah, ruined it for 150 people.
I think it's even more than that. Rhode Island winning.
Warwick, Rhode Island.
Yeah, right.
That place? I remember that.
Oh,
I played a gig there a long time ago.
Yeah,
I'm about 20 minutes away from there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so the two guys are in Boston area. I'm, right now on the road, but...
Oh, that's why you have
Usually
Aerosmith shirt. It's like required dress code.
Yeah, they hand out to everyone when you're born.
Yeah, my Red Sox hat is in the other room.
Yeah, right. Mandatory Red Sox Aerosmith gear.
Next to your Extreme shirt.
Oh,
whatever.
see, that's much more realistic because I actually love Extreme
He is
even
an
more than
Extreme
Aerosmith. I love it.
I met that guy.
Nuno's my boy.
What's that guy's name?
Gary
the
or
singer?
Nuno?
Which
Gary
not Nuno.
Sharon.
Gary Sharon. Yeah.
He's the man.
I played on an album of his called Tribes of Judah.
Dude, I remember I saw Tribes of Judah back in the day. Did you play with him live?
Yeah, like one gig, I think. I was just I played violin on something. I can't remember.
That's cool, man.
With Mike Mangini. He's like
from Dream Theater and
he's like a legendary drummer. He has the fastest drum. The interval between two drum hits. He's got the fastest in.
He's a fucking freak of nature, dude. I mean, literally, Mike Mangini's
Almost
Total
indiscernible.
freaking Asia.
Is it one note or two?
Has nothing to do with the music, but he's fast.
How did
He's the
that come
fastest
about?
Oh yeah, he's also the first one-handed snare drum guy. Like he can do a snare roll with one hand, which is like still difficult to this day.
One of my favorite Mangini stories. I mean, and I've met him a few times. He's a slightly weird dude, cool but quirky as fuck. Like not like what you would expect. Like you meet the professor from Rush, Neil Peart. Like that guy was very like a dignitary. Like he rode his bicycle around town and like wrote poems. Mangini like doesn't. You meet this guy, like, oh, what's going on, man? How are you? Yeah, that's cool. And someone made fun of him because he reaches really high. Like if you look, he has like a Gibraltar rack or whatever with all of his cymbals, and he's like always constantly doing this. So someone said something to him, so he just raised it like a foot higher. So if you look and you watch Dream Theater play, he's literally not only playing the craziest thing, he's like going for like 4 hours with his 6 like rototoms and his 300 ancillary drums that he's just hitting with foot pedals and stuff.
4-hour Dream Theater show.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. It's only 7 songs. They're like, Tool, hold our beers.
Yeah.
Hold our beers. You think your song's long in 13 minutes? We got an opus for you, motherfuckers.
Oh my god. Mike Mangini. Yeah. I was I met.
Just so you know, I love Mike Mangini. He was just wrong for extreme because you can't have 2 Nunos in an extreme.
Yeah, I went to Berkeley, so I got connected through that to answer your question.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know. I can't remember how I got that gig, but I did it.
That's good. Well, it sounds like Berkeley cares about their students having careers to some degree.
I don't think Berkeley didn't do anything for me.
Okay.
I found that gig.
I was just gonna ask, did you actually graduate from Berkeley, or did you do what you're supposed to do and just connect with the artists and get the hell out of there?
I'm a good Asian kid, so I have a college degree in film scoring. That's what I got. I got something practical. Yeah.
That's amazing. I was I've long since finished school, but I'm always looking at the Berkeley online class. I've taken a few, but I was interested in doing the film scoring. I think they do a master's now that you can do online. So I think they definitely have some courses, but it's probably easier to do it on campus. I don't know what it entails, but
yeah. If you're into film scoring, there's probably a lot of online stuff. I've done some online mixing classes from like other places. I wouldn't give Berkeley any more money. But
I don't know why you would lower yourself to Berkeley, man.
I shouldn't shit talk on Berkeley. That I like my experience there. It's just No,
but Berkeley. Everyone I've ever met from Berkeley, I feel like it's just like it's more about who you meet there or what classes you fuck off to go.
It's a hub.
Yeah, it's a hub.
Yeah, like all my friends. I have a lot of friends who are professionals now that I keep in touch with. It's cool.
Yeah.
Unless you're Shota Nakama, who fucking graduates, but they like started his own department after him because they're like, oh, you sold out Symphony Hall. Maybe we should make this a thing here.
Maybe you can bring more money into our school.
Right.
Exactly. They're like, all those Japanese kids will now come here because of you. You didn't matter when you were in Osaka, but you matter now. So now all the people from Osaka will come here.
Ben's referencing a previous guest, Shota Nakama, who came from Japan, went to Berkeley, and basically started video game music like as like a thing. And now
he's a video game orchestra, like he would do live concerts.
Yeah, and so he created the video game orchestra now, which is a huge international thing. But he started that as a kind of a club at Berkeley, and they ended up turning it into a course.
Like Zelda, like playing along with Zelda and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, except now he like writes for Final Fantasy in the Marvel universe. So he's like, oh, Zelda, you may have heard of me, Final Fantasy.
Is he a famous game composer, or is he the live game? Yeah,
both. He played he headlines like PAX, and then he'll go play Brazil in front of 100,000 people because he's a psycho.
He's not answering the question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Cory.
No, I was going to say, so he basically got into everything through doing basically covering the video game music, and has grown it to such a place now where he's now connected with the actual composers, and he works with them closely and has done some pretty incredible stuff.
Okay.
And he's been on the show, so if you guys go back to our archive, you can watch him. He's a fascinating guy. Good shit. Likes Japanese whiskey, and
Japanese whiskey. I like Japanese.
So good. So good.
Hibiki.
Oh yeah. Now I'm thirsty.
Right. Well, I guess in our remaining time, since we're coming to the end of the episode, I think Cory's kind of the official timekeeper here.
Yeah, we got about 7 minutes left.
Okay. So what's coming up, in the next few months for you? Like what's your plan? What can people look forward to in the world of Kishi Bashi?
Well, I'm officially just supposed to be working on new music. So I'm just kind of experimenting.
Supposed to be?
Is this a record label demand?
Son of a
I'm
bitch.
taking a break.
To write some songs.
Yeah, basically. What I do is I go through my phone. I make demos here and there. I put down ideas here and there, and then I go through, once it's time, I go through all my ideas and I kind of like think about them and work on them, and over like what I've collected over the past 2-3 years.
Are you like Kirk Hammett though? Like if you lose your phone, like you're gonna be fucked. Like you'll be like, dude, I had so many riffs that were good.
Kirk Hammett's problem. Just riffs.
Did you not hear about that, dude?
Just like riffs on his phone.
He literally they said he didn't get any songs of the new Metallica record, which I'm sure equates to gajillions of dollars of publishing, because he's had them all on his iPhone and he lost it because he didn't have it backed up to the cloud.
He didn't have it back. I have it backed to the cloud. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't believe Apple's not just like
space cadet.
But I feel like Apple secretly has it. They're just like, just ask us for it. We'll give it to you.
They're holding on to it for the highest bidder.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure they own the rights as soon as you put it on there. It's just like, all right, all this music is now owned by Apple. It's
Yeah, like some execs, they have like a club where they go in and like secretly listen to like
unreleased Metallica.
They're like, the most valuable thing.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that Wu-Tang record you weren't allowed to hear? We got the whole thing on repeat and 5 of Kirk Hammett's riffs you never cared about.
Just voice memo riffs they listen
Wait,
to.
is that the Wu-Tang album that they sold to that guy Skerrick?
Martin Shkreli or whatever his name is.
Yeah, for $1 million or something.
The pharmacist guy who was like taking people's money to like kill them. Yeah, awesome.
That guy, he's such an asshole. He's like the most hated person on Wall Street.
Yeah, way to go, RZA. Way to profiteer off that douchebag.
$1 million.
Dirt McGirt's turning over in his grave.
Good for them. Make that guy waste his money on that. Like that's
no shit.
He can pay me for all the crap on my phone if he wants.
How great would it be if RZA came back out and was like, "Yeah, the album fucking sucked."
It was actually only an EP, so no one would hear it anyways.
It's probably just EP. Yeah, probably.
Got lowered on the algorithm, even in space.
Yeah. Let me think about what else I'm doing this year. I'm going on vacation with my girlfriend just to Greece.
Oh, that's awesome.
In September.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. And I'm playing with some orchestras. I'm playing with the UGA Symphony. So I'm doing a lot of orchestra stuff. UGA Symphony, and then next year Asheville Symphony. So that's the other thing I've been doing is expanding, and it started with New Decco, but I now have a full symphony concert. Like I can do it with orchestras.
That's awesome. That's
so exciting.
That's got to be amazing.
Yeah, Sam helped me orchestrate like full orchestra. So Sam Hyken.
That's awesome. Yeah. So
of your music.
Yeah.
Yeah. New Decco.
That's fucking wild, bro.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I've been playing I played with a bunch of symphonies.
Hold on, wait. Can I give you a serious suggestion?
Sure.
So
I can't wait.
You should totally be like Yngwie Malmsteen, right? Like you're a composer. You have your you should show up with your big fluffy. No, bring up your big fluffy Bach shirt with all like the ruffles. And just go up there with the huge, like you're an Amadeus or some shit, and you should be up there looking like you're from the 18th century.
He doesn't just own it. He's got his own thing. Why?
No. Yeah,
but now he has an orchestra. How often do you get to wear like ruffles as a dude?
Yeah. You want
and
me to
appropriate.
Be pompous. I can do that. Bring out my ruffle. Like a wig.
That is very Yngwie. That is synonymous with Yngwie.
Yeah. Yes, the powdered wig must make a comeback.
And I should have a meltdown on an airplane and have it recorded. Have you seen that? Have you heard that one?
I have not.
Oh yeah. The donut. Like Yngwie don't like donuts, and he's like, I'll bring the fury or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I'll bring the fury.
Yeah.
He's
that's great.
Yeah. So if you need any more great ideas, Ben's available for consultations and career advice at any time. As long as you distract him from us, you can give you a good discount.
AJ Wallen, when he was doing his tour, the guy from Breaking Benjamin, unbelievable guitar player. He's going to he said he couldn't talk on stage. I'm like, bro, just pre-record it and don't use any backing tracks and then just play your pre-recorded talk
You call him
he thought
KJ.
it was
You call him
a-
KJ.
That's
Keith?
his Instagram name. His real name is
Keith. Yeah.
Keith.
No,
But as
no,
we've
I'm calling him
learned, Ben doesn't
KJ
remember any of the
because
proper titles,
No,
so.
I know that his name is Keith. He's cool Keith to me, but I don't want him to be confused with the rapper. So I just want to call him by KJ Wallen, the @ sign before, so you can find who I'm talking about. If you don't know the guitarist from Breaking Benjamin, just trying to help other stoners out there.
I used to do a bit. I used to have the sampler, and I used to do a bit where I press like a little banter button.
Oh, really?
I'd be like, "Hello, how's it going?
Oh, shit,
What's up? My
see?
name is this." Yeah,
See?
So you thought of this
he was
first.
ahead of you.
yeah, I do that. I'd be like, "Hello, hey, how's it going? You know, how's it going?" And then, like blank. I'd say like Cleveland. You know, and it's like. And then I'd like people would catch on, and then I'd like drop the mic, and, you know, I'd like leave it off and would keep talking, and that was like my joke. In fact, that was like for my lonely solo shows.
That's incredible.
That's great. I'm glad I'm not the only one to have that idea.
Yeah,
And I'm glad that you. But hold on, did it work?
yeah. People were just like, "What the fuck?" You know?
Dude, proof of concept. See, this is great. I come up with an idea. I manifest it through his destiny, through time and space. He comes on our
backwards in
show.
time.
And then now
come
I
up
can
with-
go to KJ Wallen, send this fucking piece, be like, dude, it works. Us
it's
together,
amazing.
we actually projected ourselves to the past, to this dude.
Dude, that could be for anything that any singular event in human history. You could think of it right now and then project it back. Like, I don't know, the light bulb, human flight.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't know if that would be true. If you could project back, I don't think you would have come on our show. But we're glad that you did, man.
We're glad we tricked you for just long enough to make an appearance.
So
man.
Thank you so
I
much
got-
for hanging with us, though.
Yeah,
I gotta
totally.
be real. I'm so glad that you're the guy behind all that craziness that melted my mind. Because if you guys haven't heard Kishi Bashi, I swear to God, like, you're not going to be disappointed. Like, whether you love it or hate it, you're going to feel something about it because it's fucking wild. And I love you, man. Like, I think this stuff is great. And the fact that you're in Rick and Morty, like, I know I have a whole group of friends that could care less about any of this stuff, but they'll listen to you just because I said that. So I really think it's worth, smoking that joint first, listening to like maybe Sean on Your Crazy Diamond to get in the mood, and then being like open-minded to some music maybe you haven't heard and inviting some violins into your heart.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Kate, thank you so much. No, I
this is
really
fun.
are an inspiration to me. And like even in Lost Symphony, I've taken some of your tricks of layering violins.
Oh, okay,
and,
cool.
Yeah, so that's
Awesome.
definitely played into some of the stuff that we've done. So, and I encourage people to dig through the depths of Spotify to find that EP and give it some streams.
Yeah,
because
it's called Emigrant EP. Yeah.
Oh, they
Awesome.
definitely don't want it here in America.
Nice.
But yeah, I guess
Nice.
for everyone listening, where can they follow you on Instagram or socials, wherever you're going to be announcing any shows or upcoming songs, anything?
Yeah, KishiBashi.com. I'm on Instagram, Kishi_Bashi. It's me.
That's him, the man. There with all
Yeah.
releasing
In
his
Santa
music.
Cruz Mountain.
I know I'm going to follow him.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, thanks again for hanging with us, guys. Check
Yeah.
out 2020-d.com, and we will see you next week.
I ran Aerosmith's publishing at one point, and I gave
course you
Steven
did.
Tyler his first royalty check.
Wow.
And, so
No big deal. No big deal.
I don't think he remembers it. I used to introduce
I don't think he
myself.
remembers 1982 to 1989, Dan.
It's every time I would see him, he'd come into the office. I was working at his management company at the time, and he would come into the office, and I would introduce myself to him every time.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And sometimes
One of those guys.
And sometimes he would say, Dan, why are you reintroducing yourself?
Ah.
And it's like, but sometimes he didn't. You know?
Yeah.
So,